exciting news surrounding India, the fastest growing major economy in recent years. What is driving this growth?
India, you're right, is the fastest growing large economy in the world today. In the next 3 years, India will be a larger economy than Germany. What is interesting about India's growth is that it is driven by domestic consumption. What's often heard is the large growing middle class of India is essentially looking to improve its standard of living, eating more food, eating better protein, sending children to better schools, getting better quality healthcare, and this is the cycle of uplifting their lifestyle, which is driving India's growth.
Tell us about UTI and how it goes about selecting its holdings for its funds.
We have one of the largest independent research teams in the country, and we are extremely focused on data and our research process. We have an independent vertical on research. We hire young people from business schools and chartered accountancy programs, and we train them in our method of analyzing securities, the financials, and the market data. Each analyst gets trained on a specific sector for a few years and then rotates into another sector. So by the time an analyst is with us for 10 years, he's become an expert in about 2 sectors. And then depending on their desire whether or not to manage money, they could continue to be in the analyst vertical or move on to money management. This internal focus on research in the traditional UTI way, I think, has served us really well in not just managing money, picking the right stocks, but also retaining talent and giving them a career choice.
What is the flagship equity strategy for UTI, and how does it differentiate you from your peers?
Our flagship equity strategy is a high growth, high quality strategy. It is visible for the longest track record of 10 years through a fund in Japan, the Shinsei UTI India Fund. About 4 years ago, we mirrored this fund in a UCITS vehicle, the India Dynamic Equity Fund, domiciled in Dublin. That is the fund that is now available on your platform. The fund has been managed consistently by Mr. Ajay Tyagi, who is a portfolio manager with the firm. He's been with us for over 18 years. The interesting quality about Ajay's stock picking is that he's focused on high quality stocks. The way we define quality is the ability of a company to generate free cash flow every year for the full business cycle of 7 to 10 years. It is this singular focus on quality that essentially gives our fund its top decile performance consistently. Our fund has been the best performing Indian equity fund, and we recently won an award from Citywire as well. This focus on quality and growth is perhaps one of the best ways of mining the equity opportunity in India.
What are some of the risks investors must be wary of when investing in India, and how does UTI help to mitigate these risks?
I guess India is an emerging market, and like any emerging market, you are not free from risk. And the risk predominantly in India has come from 2 sources. One is currency, and the second is inflation. Inflation has been driven again in turn by 2 sources. One is fuel and one is food. Food has been fairly benign because we've had a run of 3 good monsoon years, and agricultural production has been on the up and up. As a result, inflation has been fairly well contained. In a lackluster growth environment globally, we don't anticipate oil spiking. As a result, we think that the risk from oil and food is well contained in 2019-20 with regards to India. The other risk is the currency, and historically, Indian rupee depreciates by about 2.5% to 3% on a long-term basis. However, it's never linear. Indian rupee is flat for a few years and then it finds itself in a significant downdraft. We've had 2 major drawdowns in the last few years. One was in the aftermath of Bernanke's taper tantrum in 2013, and then 2014, 15, 16, 17, the rupee was relatively flat. We again had a 10% plus kind of a drawdown in 2018, and therefore we expect going forward 2019-20 the Indian rupee to be relatively flat. Thus, the 2 major risks of investing in an emerging country like India, currency and inflation, have been fairly well contained, and the outlook from a timing perspective looks quite positive.